We saw Carlos Heel's comments after the game. He was unhappy. What do you get on the vibe from the players from RSL about their experience of playing? I mean, the celebration in the corner on the third goal of just sliding in the snow, celebrating, felt like snow angels. What did you get from this group about how they looked at this experience and how they've looked at really the last week of just insanity?
Yeah, I would start with, when Josie Altidore came off the bench and scored immediately. I think as a broadcaster, we always have that proverbial, well, it's the worst lead in soccer, the 2-0 lead, it's the worst lead that you can possibly have. But you get the first goal, and all of a sudden things start to feel a little bit different. Then you feel a little bit nervy. I saw Carlos's post game interview, and to an extent, I can understand the sentiment. I was saying on the broadcast that just keep an eye on the way the ball is rolling,
Yeah.
because when you're playing in tough circumstances like that, you're going to see the ball up in the air probably more often than not. You're going to see teams try to turn the defenders around and face their own goalkeepers and try to create havoc. But the ball rolled pretty true. And listen, is it saltiness? Yeah, of course, because if Carlos wins 2-0, he can say like, yeah, but snow, but at least we won. He's pissed, and I get it, and that's the way the story goes.
He promised he wouldn't have said that, and
Yeah,
that was not true. Oh, if we had
yeah.
won, I would have said the same thing. Come on, Carlos.
Yeah.
We know.
By the way, he did invoke a Chris Winger dropping an F-bomb live on television, which I thought was FCC-ish.
Dunny, I want to ask you, now that I have you on, I get to talk about whatever I want on this show. That's a factor this week, but last week on the broadcast, you were talking a lot about Bobby Wood, how he looks this year compared to when he came in last year. Take me inside a little bit more to what you're seeing from him and maybe what he can be for this team this season.
Yeah, so I'll equate the same thing that I kind of said about Josie Altidore during the broadcast. If Bruce Arena and Josie Altidore can find his best form at the New England Revolution, I can't see a reason why we're not talking about Josie Altidore with regards to the U.S. men's national team, because that experience could be vital, whether it's present or it's future. I would say the same for Bobby Wood. I just think Bobby plays the position a little bit differently than the other .9s in the U.S. men's national team roster. And with kind of the circumstances in which they are, which we've seen so many different variations of players play up top for Greg Berhalter, if Bobby scores goals and proves that he is capable of maybe continuing to give a different look to Greg Berhalter, I can't see why not that his inclusion at some point is not at least talked about. So again, I think it was a risk, and now I think we're going to see the reward for Real Salt Lake with Bobby Wood kind of running that line.
We saw Sergio Cordova in this game obviously get the goal, comes off the bench early because of the concussion to Michael Chang. Not the best environment to see him, but you've seen him more often than us. Give me a range of what we're talking about in terms of how he can play in this league. Or do you think he's a star guy that they can play through? Is it another piece like a Miram, like a Chang, like Anderson Julio was last year, to just play when he's hot? How can he be a player for this RSL team?
Yeah, I see Sergio Cordova as a starter. He came in, he kind of was carrying an injury, then picked up COVID, had another little injury, and that's the reason why he wasn't in the starting 11 from the opening day. But I think the idea was he was about 60 minutes fit, and whether you put him on the right, you put him on the left, you put him at point striker to help out Bobby Wood, or you play him off the shoulder, he has some traits that nobody else has in this roster, including Bobby Wood. And I think it was just a lot to handle for John Bell and Andrew Farrell up top. He gets his goal, he pulls one back, and then he was just kind of instrumental in the build-up, the hold-up play, the movement, the transition. So Cordova, I think, is an absolute starter when it's all said and done.
But you mentioned off the top, you mentioned it again with David Blitzer and his group. Can they become the sexy pick? Will they? You talk about signings. Are they going to make signings at a level where they're going to become that? Because it's not yet, but Ache to Houston is a huge move, and that is a new ownership group. What should we expect in terms of the level of signing?
I'm trying not to blow this ownership group up too much, but I would say that having spent time with David Blitzer and Ryan Smith, if you're an RSL fan and you went to Rio Tinto Stadium, just the start of what they're doing at the stadium and knowing what they have planned, it's going to transform the game day experience, right? So that'll be for the fan group. I don't think they need to overspend. I don't
Mhm.
think they need to be thrifty, although I think they're good at finding really smart general undercover buys. But I do think now they have the opportunity to go out and swing for some of the bigger players. And again, I know Salt Lake City isn't a sexy market like Miami. You're looking at the potential for 2 to 3 designated players, a target allocation money, a U22 initiative. I think Elliot's done a great job of setting this roster up.
And with that, we can now move over to, I think, one of the best stories of the weekend. FC Cincinnati getting their first win of the year down in Orlando. So take me into the vibe. Give me the energy. What was Saturday night like around this club?
I mean, not surprisingly, tons of smiles on the field after the game, a lot of hugs, a lot of relief, even for the guys who are newer on this roster. I think it's obvious that the guys from last year would feel that sense of relief, but even Alec Kann, who's newer to the team, he's a new addition. He talked about getting rid of the monkey off their backs at the end of the game, which I thought was interesting from him, but I think it's something that this team has felt for so long. A lot of people talk about the losing streak carrying over from last season. And even the newer guys have felt that. So even though this is kind of a new era under Pat Noonan, I think the entire group, especially after starting off the season in what felt like such a disappointing way in that 5-0 loss against Austin. And then the next game seemed like such a Cincinnati way to lose, honestly, with that
Mhm.
98th minute penalty. Just those two games, it's this group is like, this is not what we're about. We're much better than this. So to finally get that win and knowing that there is understanding this group is going to win and they are moving in the right direction.
You mentioned Alec Kann. He was, a lot of people put him down as one of the biggest additions in the offseason, not just for Cincinnati, but across the league. He had a horrific game one. And then the rumors of, is this defense against the dark arts level professorship of a curse to be a goalkeeper for FC Cincinnati? This was a huge bounce back game for him, though. What'd you make of what you saw from him and how he sort of has settled in?
Alec was phenomenal. I mean, he had 5 saves on the night. I feel like he had more than 5. It seems like that for sure, but he also has something against Orlando. He's got 16 saves across 3 total games against them
Oh,
now.
I
So,
love that.
yeah, it's impressive. It's like he shows up against them, but no, I think that first game, it was really unlucky for a lot of people, including Alec. It was just one of those nights where Austin scored early and people are like dropping their heads thinking, "Oh gosh, this is not what we've worked on." And so for him also, that was a tough loss. I don't think it was indicative of the team's performance or Alex. He makes some great saves, and I think that last match was a great example of him coming up in big moments, having that confidence. And they talked about how can we respond from a really disappointing start to the season, and so sure enough, they did. So I think that last game showed what Alec can do and how commanding he could be in the box.
I thought in the first game as well, Brandon Vazquez played well, got chances, couldn't finish.
Hmm.
He finished in this one. He finished from a few different angles. He almost finished from 40 yards away on the one that that guy Ase comes out on him
Hmm.
as well. It felt like playing Dominic Badji near him sort of helped him out a little bit in this game as well. What do you make of them together? And then after that, you got to give me the Brenner update of how close are we to maybe that triumvirate.
So I love this partnership between Baji and Vasquez. I think the two of them are stronger players when they have someone next to them. Oftentimes, Brandon has been left kind of on an island, or he's done pretty well with Brenner as well, but he does better in that two striker system because he can hold up the ball. He's big, he's strong, lay it off, whether it's to Lucho coming underneath. To find Baji running in behind, because that's one of Baji's biggest strengths too, is running into that space in behind. But he and Brandon are both aerial threats. I think Brandon showed that in the last game against Orlando too. Just the second one I laughed, he fell backward as it hit him. I said, Baji really put some heat on that pass. But they're great. I mean, Brandon's good at the dirty work. They're good at playing off of each other. But it's really impressive to me, especially as Baji was coming back from injury throughout preseason, that these guys haven't even played that much together, but their communication and their chemistry is great. I think it's because they have similar traits, but they know just what works between the two of them. So you see a ton of opportunities created, and so I'm glad that they paid off last game.
Dominic Badji still getting it done everywhere he goes. The first victory of the year for FC Cincinnati down in Orlando, which also means the first victory for Pat Noonan as a head coach. It was kind of an anointed thing, I think, Alex, for people around the league. We were waiting for him to get his job, the assistant to Jim Curtin, the success Philly had, and then Chris Albright takes over, and it just makes a ton of sense. Take us inside. What have you seen from him, both as a leader and as a coach so far in his short time?
Pat Noonan has been incredible. I feel really grateful to be able to work with him. I think he gives a lot of credit to the coaches that he's worked with in the past also, Bruce Arena, Jim Curtin, but he has this trait where he cares so much about the people that he works with, and he treats everyone with this level of respect. So it doesn't matter where you fall on the staff. He wants to hear you out. He wants to help however he can, and really gives everyone the time of day and understands that everyone here is working as hard as they can to do the best for the players and help the players perform at their best. So there's this culture that's being instilled where everyone is working toward the same thing, and it's just really positive. It's a wonderful atmosphere to be a part of, and that's coming from Pat. So he's implementing it across the team, but also across the staff. So I think the guys are really bought in. It helps so much that he understands this league, both as a player, as a coach, and what it takes to win. You look at that last game. I mean, the tactical adjustments at halftime, I feel like it's been a while since we've seen something like that. But he sees that you have to implement different shapes, formations with the personnel that you have. He's already had to work with limited numbers. We talked about Brenner just a moment ago, but some of the guys that are missing, okay, how can we adjust, or what is the game giving us?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And what I saw was, scrambling, making defensive plays, but they didn't feel rattled. It didn't feel like they were a second from giving up goals and falling apart. It felt like it was part of the game plan, and the team was comfortable absorbing that pressure, knowing chances would be on the break against Orlando going forward, including one guy who I have to ask you, because I watch FC Cincinnati every time, and then I remember that Yuya Kubo was signed as an attacking DP. He came from Europe. He was a Japanese full international. He's played as a demon. He's played all over the place, and he continues to grind it out. Like, what is this guy? I've never spoken to him. What is this guy like? And when can we finally maybe see him get to do the things he loves to do for this team?
Yeah, Kubo he's very humble. He's a workhorse. He goes in there and does whatever he's asked to do. So I think maybe that's why we've seen him do so many different things, because if you need to rely on someone to go in and do the dirty work or step into any position, Yuya has been able to do that. So I think, earlier in the season and throughout preseason too, he's been given those opportunities to push forward more, because there's that recognition of how dangerous he is on the attack. He's incredibly technical. He's great with the ball at his feet, and he's really good at turning quickly, finding space. And I also think, he's a threat at the top of the box. Like, I've seen Yuya rip a shot from outside the 18 several times. He did it in preseason a couple times and scores great goals. So that's someone, if he gets a window and if he can get forward, he's going to be another player that guys are watching for. But I think he's just shown his versatility. So if he's playing as one of the eights on the outside of the diamond midfield, or he has three center backs in behind him in that 3-5-2 that FCC implemented the last couple games, he has some more defensive support. He can push forward a little more. I know when they switched to a 4-2-3-1, he was playing in the midfield next to Junior, so maybe not going forward as much, but he really just steps in wherever he's called upon. And we saw last year how skilled he can be defensively. Even this year, he's led the team in tackles in 2 games. So he gets stuck in. He's not afraid to do it. And I think that he just says whatever you need to this team. And I'm happy he actually got credited with an assist last game. So there's one attacking stat.
Yes, you earned it. You deserve it. This is why you never volunteer for things, because once you volunteer once, then everyone turns and says, "Oh yeah, him? Yeah, he wants to play teammate for the rest of his life." He's been fun to watch. FC Cincinnati, a lot of fun to watch this weekend. Feels like this could be a really good stretch. Home to Miami in the next game, at Charlotte the game after that. And if Montreal goes through in CCL, they'd have Montreal at home after that, coming off a CCL game. This could be a historic run for FC Cincinnati. I'm David Goss. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow to preview CCL, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we are here every single day. And that's why we do this show, because there is a copious amount of MLS action to cover at all times and all moments. On that note, thanks for joining us and have a great day.